Hey guys, so in this video, I'm going to go ahead and do my review video on the latest episode of MLP. Alright, so this episode first starts off with a graduation for Maud Pie from a school about rock studying. I forgot the name of what the studying was, but but Maud wore a rock on her head that was actually supposed to be shaped like a graduation hat, and I thought that was pretty clever for a graduation. I thought that was pretty clever for Maud to wear since she studied rocks and she loves rocks and used that for a graduation hat. And Pinky, however, was the one who cheered her on the most, which is no surprise compared to everyone else in the Pie family, especially for Limestone Pie. And so after the intro, Pinky and Maud head towards Ponyville on the train. However, Pinky was expecting Maud to move to Ponyville. However, Maud told Pinky that she was also considering going to Ghastly Gorge. And which would make plenty of sense since it could be a pretty easy place for Maud to find rocks there. However, at one point on the train, Pinky actually did an impersonation of Maud, which I thought was pretty. I thought that was pretty on point, that impersonation of Maud. And so, in the next scene, Pinky showed Maud the gem cave in Ponyville to try and convince her to stay in Ponyville, and I think it looks really pretty in there too. And however, Maud found some gemstones that were somewhat in common and really didn't appeal to her much, which I don't see why it wouldn't, because it looked really nice in there. And so then Pinky brought Maud to Twilight's Castle, which also looks really pretty. But however, Maud still didn't buy it either. And even though and like I said, it's pretty freaking gorgeous too. And so then at one point, you even see Tank as well trying to point out to Maud as an example for a rock as well because of its shell. But however, that didn't work, obviously. And I was kind of expecting to see Artie in the scene since that is Tank's pet. So, however, at one point, Maud ended up coming out, or sorry, not Maud, Starlight ended up coming out of Twilight's castle since Starlight does tend to stay there a lot. And it was interesting to find out that Maud and Starlight had met before. So Starlight actually met Maud around the village where Starlight took over. However, that's where Pinky found out that Maud helped Starlight take over a whole village, and that's where Maud did not want. That's where Pinky did not want Maud to tell any pony. But I'm guessing that Maud really didn't know about what went down in that village with Starlight back in the season 5 premiere, though. So that's where Pinky wanted Starlight and Maud to hang out. And so they ended up taking a little stroll through a shopping area in Ponyville. And then Pinky ended up following them, and she could tell that Starlight really wasn't clicking well with Maud. And that kind of made me think back to the first episode where we first met Maud, where Pinky is really trying to get Maud to be a social pony with her friends. So in the next scene, Starlight and Marble decide to fly some kites, and Pinky was watching them do that as well. And then they went back into the Ponyville Gem Cave. However, at one point they found this other really pretty hidden area in the caverns. And so that's where Pinky, however, once again followed them to see if they were getting along. But she could still tell that they weren't bonding as much. So then she managed to trap them in the cave somehow to make sure that they were bonding more, which honestly didn't seem to help. But Maud managed to get them out of there by throwing a little pebble at the ceiling. I don't know how that helped, but hey, it's Maud. In fact, Pinky even gave them a necklace with bells attached to them so Pinky could keep track of them, which I really didn't think was necessary. However, so then at one point, she bounced. Then after Pinky had bounced away, Starlight actually used her magic to take off the necklaces with the bells on them. And so the next scene, Pinky and Maud decide to call it a night, and that's where Maud decided to sleep at Sugarcube Corner. And it was actually interesting to see Maud's mane and curls and Pinky, but yet Pinky was still at it with bombarding Maud about what went down with her and Starlight. And so that next morning, Maud ended up leaving a note to Pinky telling her that she went to Ghastly Gorge. And so Pinky tried to find Maud at the train station, but unfortunately Maud had already left. And so Pinky went back to the castle to wake up Starlight to let her know that she had left. And that's where Pinky found out that they were becoming friends. She just didn't realize it that early in the episode, but I could kind of tell a little bit. I mean, I know that she didn't really click well with the rest of Pinky's friends, but I say overall that she was definitely clicking more with Starlight. And so later on in this episode, Pinky met up with Maud. However, Pinky found her in the mouth of an eel. So Pinky rescued Maud from the eel that was by getting her out of her mouth. Sorry, I'm yawning. But then anyway, and so they even had to run away from more eels as well. I think it was more eels than the eels we found. I think there was only one eel that we found when Artie raced all those other pets in season 2. Or I think there were probably more eels in this episode than compared to that other episode. But anyway, that's where Maud told Pinky that she was having a great time at Ghastly Gorge. However, knowing her having a great time, it would be obvious that she wouldn't show any expression while saying that. But then at one point they landed on a rock, but at first you could tell that it looked like they were way high up. No, really they weren't. So Maud showed Pinky a little camping spot that she made. And this is kind of where I got emotional. Pinky felt sorry for underestimating Maud about her making friends with Starlight, and I was moved to see how much Pinky really cared about her sister in this scene. And that's where Pinky asked Maud again to consider Ponyville, and that's where Pinky had also asked for a chance to leave Maud alone when it comes to hanging out with Starlight. And so that's where Maud met back up with Starlight to hang out with her again in that gem cave, and then that's where Pinkie Pie had left them alone. So overall, I thought this was a pretty good episode. It was interesting to find out something new about Starlight and Maud, which is how they met. I think that was supposed to happen like before the season 5 premiere. And it was great to see the rest of the Pies at the beginning of the episode as well at the graduation. And I'm glad that Maud got some social time in Ponyville. And also, I'm glad I got a chance to see Marble Pie, because I think she's my favorite, really. I mean, she's more quiet than Fluttershy, but she's still one of my favorite in the Pie family. But anyway, so yeah, this is my review on My Little Pony Season 7, Episode 4. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time, alright? Alright, thanks guys. Alright, bye.